Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We're really happy to see you this evening. My name is Surawat Sam from Yotin. I'm the director of the Sustainability and Entrepreneurship Center here at Sasin. Also, just incidentally, in case it relates to your other interests, I'm an executive director of Bangkok Venture Club, where we have almost 600 angel investors, VCs, CVCs, private equity. So if you are a startup or an aspiring startup at some point, you want to raise funds one day, that's a possibility. We also have a celebrity angel / startup guru over here too. You could go ask him for money as well. Kun Boy, the founder of Scootar. Right? Okay, but we're here for this gentleman this evening. So, good buddy. We've actually talked about growth hacking and digital marketing for some years. Yeah. So I'm really excited because that's always been like in a coffee shop or something like that, and it's like talking shop together. So I'm excited to be able to share some of this man's wisdom with you guys. So just to kind of lay a little bit of very, very rudimentary groundwork, the term growth hacking, I mean, it's like a really sexy thing out there in the startup world, but it's a little mysterious. So just to kind of give the fundamental one more time, it's really this interesting mix between marketing and some technical skill and psychology and UI and UX. It's blending a lot of things in order to do growth, right? And so it's really something that it didn't quite exist this way not that long ago. So to have, sometimes when we hear about this stuff though, you tend to hear stories about some tactics from very, very far away or some kind of theory or philosophy, but to actually hear from a practitioner, right, from someone who's been doing it and give you a real case study makes it much more real. And on top of that, some of you may have heard of Techsauce. Techsauce is an amazing, amazing conference. It's one of the biggest conferences in the region, if not the world, for startups. And just absolutely huge. We've seen them go from just a tiny little thing to a huge regional play, right? And what he's done has been like an engine behind that. His growth hacking has helped to drive that outcome. So we'll go ahead and get a little sneak peek into the inner workings of that. All right, so it's my pleasure to introduce Dave Malhotra.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. How's everybody doing today? Good. So my name is Dave Malhotra. I'm actually Thai. I guess I can speak Thai. In case you have any questions in Thai, you can ask in Thai as well. Yeah, I'm brought up in Thailand, born in Thailand. I studied abroad. I came back to work in Thailand for the last 10, 12 years now. Sold Out is my startup, right? I actually run a bunch of things. I'll walk you through a little bit about me, so maybe I should just jump in then. It's not working. All right, I'll use this then. So I have a lot of background in digital strategy, media, development, a lot in marketing, and I used to work at Thai Ticket Major. Actually, that was my first job. So in Thai Ticket Major, I was responsible actually to handle all major Cineplex's digital strategy. So we'd be doing like things like if you get a movie mail that comes from Major, that's the stuff that we were handling back then. We would be doing like revamping the whole like Paragon and Major Cineplex, EGV, and all the brands. We were basically running the whole digital platforms and strategies. I also happen to have built the first mobile ticketing platform that you can book online, select the seat, using obviously the powerful Thai Ticket Major backend that we can do the whole seating and then how you can book seats quickly and all that. And then we were basically the first to build that for Thailand, to be able to book a ticket and then go directly to the cinema and then enter the cinema. At Thai Ticket Major, also I experimented with a lot, like, zooming of, you can have something like a big hall where you can zoom in and zoom out and all that stuff. We were experimenting with a lot of stuff. At Thai Ticket Major, also I worked with events like Eric Clapton, Santana, and all that stuff, basically to help boost ticket sales. Or Thailand Open, I was responsible to doing in the live scoring, where we broadcast like tennis matches all around the world and then all of that stuff. So handled by Thai Ticket Major digital team as well. Right. Then I happened to have joined Minor Group after I got bored with a lot of crazy stuff. I wanted to get into the real business, like get into the corporate life and all that. So I joined Minor Group. I was the digital marketing manager, probably the first guy in Minor Food. In Minor, I was basically leading a project where you have to integrate a system where you can order pizza via an app or online, and then get it sent to the store directly. So before that, what happens is that when you have an order coming in, right? We would have an online platform or website or whatever it is, and the call center would have two screens, one for the online and one for the store. So the store would be like connected to the POS systems and the whole database and all that stuff. So the staff would have to look at the left screen and then key that order into the right screen and then send it to the store. It's kind of like when you walk into that place and you feel like, hey, we are like in the 21st century, and then this cannot happen. So basically I went in to integrate the whole system together. I was not the coder or anything like that, but basically I understood a lot of the tech side. So they picked me to go and do that project. Right. And my family runs a media company as well called the Parimel Media. So we have like a bunch of, I think we have 3 newspapers. It's down to 1 now. And then we have online media and all of that. Roughly about 6 years ago, I decided to travel the world a little bit, change my perspective. And I got back, and then my friend called me out and said, hey, you want to do a startup? I said, yeah, why not? So I started, the first one was Dinoza. Dinoza is actually an e-commerce concept where, think of it like a Lazada plus eBay, but you don't really auction like in eBay. It's more or less like you buy credits to go and engage in an auction where you put in, like kind of like putting in coins. And then when you win an iPhone for like 3,000-4,000 baht only. You save like 60 to 80% on the cost. And then if you don't win, then we convert that into points, and then you can use that like a loyalty program. You can change those points into products that you like. We scaled it up to about 100,000 users. But then at that point of time, Alibaba entered Thailand, and everybody started shutting down. So we shut down as well due to lack of funding. Right. And then I started Sold Out. That was around the time where I started learning a lot about the consumer behavior in Thailand, the psychology of selling, how people like start to think about products and how they decide if they want to buy it right away or buy it later. I started learning a lot about payment systems in Thailand. Actually, Sold Out is kind of a pet project. I wanted to start actually not to do events, but it was to fix the payment problem in Thailand. Everybody was moving to the e-money, digital economy, and all of that stuff, but people didn't realize that 80%, this is from like Bank of Thailand, 80% of the payments that happen online for online transactions actually happen via manual bank transfer. I mean, we know this from Line, from Facebook Messenger. We know that even till today, people still use bank transfer. You don't have like credit cards over like 30% or something. That's it. Like people don't use that technology at all. But still, everybody's trying to push that and automation and all of that stuff. But they don't realize that you actually kind of like you're creating obstructions basically. If you want to close better sales, And if you don't understand the consumer behavior, you don't know what they're doing. At the end of the day, you're like, you ask them to walk from point A to B, but then you put something in between where you just stop them from actually going in that direction. And I thought credit card was it because I'm crazy about trying to find an answers. And like, for example, in Dinosa, if somebody was not coming to my site and closing a sale, what we do is that we actually do a lot of cold calling to understand why a customer would not walk from A to B. And the majority of them said about the bank transfer. A lot of people were not comfortable with doing the credit card payment. I mean, this might come as a surprise to a lot of you because I use credit card any day because I find it like very convenient. It's just one button. But I mean, the majority of the population in Thailand still does not follow that direction. Yeah. So Sold Out was born with that idea of, it was called Pay Basic first. The idea was how can you accept payment by just taking a photo of whatever, like if you made a transfer via ATM or an app or whatever it is, all you have to do is just upload that photo and then it'll get approved in the less than 10 minutes. So we started with that idea and then we launched like in a prototype event. It was kind of like, okay, I was doing event consulting as well, so it kind of a good combination. So we created an event system as well as the payment systems. We launched, and it turns out that prior to that, when we were using other platforms, we were selling like 20, 30 tickets. It failed terribly. But then once we launched this prototype, we launched this new payment technology, or I would say like method. The conversion rate went up by at least 10 to 20%. And the crazy thing was we sold 400 tickets in just 9 days. I've never done that in my life. The company has never done that in their history. And that's how everything started. And then I said, hey, maybe, spin this off as a startup. And that was like 3 years ago, basically. I'll dig into more details on how we get into the sales psychology. But yeah, and then I started an agency as well, roughly about 2 years ago. I used to work with a lot of agencies back in the minor days and Thai Ticket major days. I just didn't like the way that agency run their business, so I thought like I wanted to build an agency where I would focus on actually building products rather than just it's all about the money, So the concept of Shakespeare is actually very simple. Somebody wants to build a startup or somebody wants to introduce a new MVP or try out a new idea. We'll do a cost-effective solution plus something that will take you alleviate at least about 6 months to 1 year to actually set up that startup. We've done a few startups now. We've done one in Indonesia. We're doing one in Thailand. They're converting it from a traditional factory model into a startup model. So what we do is consult and build the technology behind it. And recently we built Food Hunt. I don't know if you've heard of Food Hunt. Food Hunt is actually a project, actually a startup that we built for Central Group. So Central has a lot of restaurants, probably 15 to 20 brands now. But the idea is if they were to launch another app, like a Central Food, a CRG app, or whatever it is, they know they cannot beat the guys like Food Panda and Grab Food and Line Man today. So they wanted to basically get a startup guy to go in and build the whole entire system like a startup. And they scoured for a bit to find the right people to do it, and then they found us, and then we pitched the idea. But technically, I would be like dictating 80% of what has been built in this platform because they gave me that liberty. So Food Hunt is kind of like the biggest project that we've done right now as a startup, as a new MVP. Like think of it like a corporate project where normally you take a year to build, but Food Hunt we built in 3.5 months. It was really aggressive, and then we're already launching the phase 2 and phase 3 like around like next month. Yeah, you can download it now if you want to try. Actually, it's the first food ordering app probably in the world that what you can do is you can order from multiple restaurants and get it delivered in one go. And that's the biggest USP of what we do over here, that we can beat GrabFood and Food Panda in that sense. Right? The market, obviously, they have all the market right now, but the idea is you can order like Otoya and Mr. Donut in one order, and then the bike guy will bring from both the restaurants in one order to you. Right? And yeah, LifePal is another startup we built an MVP for. That's in Indonesia. Club First is a travel startup. And of course, Techsauce, I built not just a ticketing platform, we also built the website and the back-end tech in 2018 to integrate like the whole app, APIs and all that stuff. So we help them do that as well. So before we start, that was my introduction, but before we start, what I want to share with you today, basically, I want to maybe clear up your mindset a little bit. And actually, what I share with you is quite common sense. It's quite basic, but it's just that it took me a few years to actually understand that if you walk this direction, this is what you get. But if you walk the other direction, this is what you get. And what do? You A/B test, and you find out, okay, this works more, or this works better. So we follow this direction. It's basically just that. But I hope I can explain it in the most basic way. So if anybody has any questions during the session, can always just raise. Yeah. But before we start, I want to say that nothing comes easy. This is not like a rule book or anything like that. There's a lot of learning curve in this. So I hope you take this as ideas, as something that you can try and apply. But the idea is when you do this, you have to understand that it's not like it's going to work tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, it's actually not even about the strategy and not about the tactics that you use. It's all about the person who's doing it, the mindset. If you have the right mindset for it and you have the drive for it, then obviously you'll hit your numbers, that's for sure. Because I guess that's how it works with every business anyway. Yeah. So there's a lot of learning curve. This process will only make you understand and maybe react faster in the future when you have a situation that I had before. You'll probably react faster because you know now we've done this. But then you still have to go through the process of actually learning or understanding it. Yeah. So there's no shortcut. All right. So the aim of this talk is actually to share my story, right? And to inspire you in taking actions that will boost your sales in your business. A few ideas that I share probably might spark your ideas, and then you might try to apply them tomorrow or something like that. It's not just for events business. It actually applies to all kinds of business that you have a product to sell. So I might use a case study about events a lot here, but the idea is not that. Events, tickets is just another product. The idea is you can apply this to any business. And to be honest, like ticketing, I only learned in the last 2 or 3 years. I was doing more of e-commerce the last 5, 6 years anyway. So a lot of these ideas also came from the e-commerce market. And I want to share real life case studies to back the success stories as much as I can share. I probably cannot give you all the secrets, but I'll try to give you the most I can. Right. And obviously, I'm here to get ideas from you guys as well because I'm still learning. Right. Okay. All right. Just to give you an introduction of what Techsauce is. A lot of people probably know what Techsauce is already. They've been running for the last like 7, 8 years. And they're probably I would say the gold standard for tech and startup events in Thailand. And you can say, even when I meet people in Hong Kong, in Singapore, and when a lot of people hear about Techsauce, they just know it and they just like it. They know that this is like, okay, one of the events that you have to go once a year. And we do it quite differently. If you go to Rise in Hong Kong, if anybody's heard of Rise, they're very business focused. But in Thailand, we party harder. We know how to have fun. So Techsauce is very geared towards like when you walk in, it's like a nightclub and all that. So I think they have a good strategy and I like it. compared to the ones that have been outside Thailand. And obviously on the other side is that people go there to find investors, right? So it's kind of like probably the best or probably the one event that you'd like to use it as a launch pad for your startup. Because the connections that you get from there, it's like everybody in the startup industry and everybody in the tech industry and VCs are all there. So you just walk around. Sometimes you just walk around and you already make really good connections. And then they're sold out. So yeah, I've shared a little bit about sold out, but the achievements that we've done in the last 2 to 3 years. First of all, we've already broken a 90% lead to conversion rate. What that is like if somebody comes and book a ticket and they make a payment, that's a conversion. So my job as a platform is that if they register a ticket, they have to make a payment. Now, why this number is important is because I've used other platforms before, and I think they do a very good job. But there's none other platforms in the market today that actually focus on sales. They actually focus on scalability and focus on basically a DIY platform where you have a username, password, go in, set up your own events, launch anytime, and then have a shared support. But in our case, we try to focus on sales. Like we charge the same fee, but our game is that we'll make more sales. That's guaranteed. And then jumping into our platform already, you have a higher conversion rate. And that comes from a lot of thinking into design and a lot of thinking into how we present the product. And if you notice, like that's the page, which is so different from the other platforms out there. We're actually a very narrow page. And this comes from a lot of research that I've done in the past. Why our page is narrow is already one way of how we convert better. Think about it this way. Like for me, I believe that a website, not an e-commerce website, let's say a website that has a product, but it has a lot of menus on top, actually kills sales. Because what happens is that you have to understand that when a customer wants to buy a product, when there's a demand for it, I think the solution is that how do you use that demand and then draw a straight line from that demand into a closed sales. But the problem with websites today, especially in Thailand, is that you try to stuff in a lot of information, you try to put a lot of menus, and you think like putting a lot of information in that page is actually, it's better because you give like informed decision to them. But actually, no. Today's attention span in Thailand is probably like the shortest in the world. And if you try to sell something, you've seen this already in Facebook Live, people buy instant now. And people buy instant not because the product is good or it has good value to them or anything, but it's actually the moment of truth. When you put a bet on your moment of truth and you make it like, and you have a really good like sales script or a good marketing strategy or you say the right things at that right time, you can close sales. And I thought like if I have to design a platform that has, like imagine we don't even have the event information here. We actually take all of that out. All we do is that it's just all about booking the tickets. You come in, you book the tickets, that's it. And I would advise the event organizer how they can do how they can share that information on that page. That's the other side of the things that we do. So we might go forward and build that page for them. And that page will not have links on top. It will have only one button. It's the buy now button. And that's the only exit that you can have from that page. So, things like that, like it comes from a lot of, actually in the US, they do this a lot. If you've heard of the sales page concept, the sales copy and all that stuff, if you stumbled upon one of those single product ebooks and all of that, when they say it's just $7 and then they say it's $69 and then they say, oh, if you buy this, it's $300, but if you buy it now, add into your cart, you might get a $127. Those numbers, and that's actually how they do it. And if you notice, there's no exit. All you have to do is just go through the shopping cart or checkout. There's no other ways you can leave that site. I experimented this in Dinosa as well in the e-commerce platform. It was very difficult concept like that we come up with, where people have to buy before they have to buy credits before they get a product. But then the way that we did it was that we created a page after they've signed up. First they say that, okay, you get 100 baht coupon if you sign up now. And right after you sign up, I don't even ask them to go and verify or whatever it is. I say, here's the deal. If you use that 100 baht coupon in 24 hours, and then I have a price table that's like blinking, and I say, if you use it now, you get this off. And when you click this button, you're going to get this discount, and then you're going to get the deal right away. And throughout the page, that's the only button that I have. The rest of the page is basically just information and then trying to convince them, and then it might look like a button, but it's not a button. And the crazy thing is we did a heat map tracking of that page. So the funny thing is, you'd see people try to click on the logo, and then you see people try to click on the text, and all over the page, and they cannot go anywhere. Somebody's just trying to get out of this page, but they cannot go. The only way to go is just to click the big red buy button. So I know it's quite extreme, but that's actually how you control the journey of a customer. Like, to be honest, like it's not even an injustice thing that you do to your customer. It's actually you're guiding your customer to the right information and to the right path. That's the philosophy of how we do things. So we have a lot of arguments with our clients with that when they try to add information, but then I have to like soft sell it back to them, saying that don't do this because this will hurt you, and I try to prove it with the number. So yeah, I mean, if you understand the user journey when they buy a product, like I'm talking even offline. Like, for example, somebody walks into a department store, there's a way that they walk. And when they see something like, maybe an arrow, then they tend to turn left, right? That's psychology. That's human. That's what we do. And then we walk towards this side, or somebody is trying to buy alcohol. Like, for example, has anybody heard of Gary Vaynerchuk? Gary is probably the #1 marketing guru right now in the world. He took his father's business from $6 million to $40 million in just 3 years, and it was a wine store called Wine Library. And I just found out probably a few weeks ago that he went in and all he did, like the major changes that he did was actually just to rearrange things. For example, he just moved the beer section that used to be in front of the shop. He moved it to the back because he knew that when people walk in, they're not interested in wine, and wine is actually he gets more margins from that, right? So they would walk in, and then they would stick around on the beer section for way too long. They spend 20 minutes, and then they still don't buy anything. So what he did was he moved that to the back, so people actually walk through the wine, and then there's a lot of promotions and this and that, and people ended up buying wines rather than the beer. And that's it. He just like really minor optimization, and he's already taking the business to like a different level. But that's the idea. He tries to understand the user journey of a buying experience, and then he just optimizes that. So basically, online is the same thing. How you understand when people click an ad, it's very important. When you click an ad and you say, hey, it's 20% off, but you land on the page and then that 20% off is like right at the bottom of the page and people didn't find it, what they do is they click close. But if you can create a journey where people see 20% off, they come and they see 20% off, and even better, if you can actually put the name in. I'll tell you a little bit how we did this, but we actually personalize the page as well. Like if you come in and like, hi Dave, here's 20% for you, and then when you create that experience, people want to buy. People just want to check out right away. Yeah. The crazy thing is this year at one point during the sale, we sold like 1 minute, one ticket per minute during a span of 3 to 4 hours, just because we ran one sale and we understood how the user journey was. Right, I'll just dive in. So we do other events as well, not just Techsauce. We ran actually the startup week with Haba and Google for Startups and Techstars. We one of the events in Start Me Up Hong Kong. Startup Launchpad is Global Sources is actually the biggest private exhibition company in Hong Kong. And UX Thailand. I don't know if anybody attended UX Thailand. UX Thailand was a lot of, actually it was a good case study as well, how we sales hacked that event until we actually sold out 2 months early. Yeah, I'll share a bit on that as well. So, all right, so at this point, just going to give, I mean, all of this is not just because sold out is so cool and all of that stuff. No, I have to give a lot of credit to Techsauce as well, because to be honest, about 2.5 years ago, so the executive people from Techsauce approached me and said, can you do this? Can you do that? And I said, like, just give me the opportunity. And then they said this, Dave, this is a leap of faith. I'm giving it to you. If you screw up, you screw up. And then we won't hire you again. And that was the moment of truth for me. So I took up Techsauce project. And then, yeah, and a year later, we tripled the sales, basically. But I have to give them a lot of credit. First of all, for giving me that opportunity. Also, for actually working quite closely with us. Because when we do something like this, and if the client is not playing the game with you, it's very difficult. Because no matter how much you've done research on, no matter how much you've, how many ideas you have, you walk up to your client and you say, you should do this. And then when you say there's a cost, the first thing they say, yeah, maybe we'll talk about it later. It's very difficult to make them trust you at the start with something like a big campaign, So I have to give credit to them that they started trusting us, and then eventually they're like, okay, Dave, tell us what to do. It's like that. So just to clarify what the role between Sold Out and Techsauce is, just to give you an idea. So obviously they're the product owner. We don't run the events. We just sell the tickets for them. We do understand a bit of the event model because we have to do that to understand who comes to the event, why do they come to the event, what do they like. We want to gather that information and we give it back to them, but in our angle, it's more about ticket sales, basically. Then obviously the branding. So Techsauce is actually a huge brand. A lot of people think Techsauce is actually from Singapore or something like that, but it's actually a Thai brand. Then the production. I think this is probably has the best production of any startup event in Asia. And I have to give credit to them because of that experience that they created. It's very easy to sell tickets. Imagine when you go to you've heard of Wonder Fruit, right? Wonder Fruit, the festival that happens every year, just a week before Christmas in Pattaya. Because of the production, like it's so big, everybody's so impressed and all that stuff. They can sell tickets for another like 5 to 10 years, and people will, they still have a lot of fan following. So I think they do a good job in actually creating that impressive experience where you'll buy tickets for next year for sure. And they do the media. We don't do the media. That's a line we draw. We don't get into the Facebook ads and all that stuff. We advise, but we let them do the media, basically. And then the Sold Out, what we do is we do the ticket buying experience. Basically, it starts from the platform. The platform that they use is Sold Out, and then the whole buying experience, we customize a lot of stuff for them to make sure that it's actually tuned to sell at that level. And the pricing strategy. I'll share a little bit about the pricing strategy, but we kind of advise to them as well on how to price their tickets and all of that. And because we have a lot of interaction with customers and we want to know how this should work. And then after, analyzing a lot of behavior, the buying behavior and all of that stuff, we tend to understand now, like, how should you price your tickets in such a way that people will buy regularly. And the conversion optimization. So I shared with you like 90% lead to conversion rate. Actually, we've done it first time ever was in 2018 in the Techsauce event. It was a bit of a strategy shift that we've done internally in Sold Out. And then we wanted to push the number to 90%. So Techsauce is like our ideal event to actually push that number, keep pushing. Yeah. And then obviously data collection, analysis, and feedback. This is actually one of the most important thing, actually. We're the only platforms out there right now that allows you to track every little thing that you do with your campaigns, with your results, and all of that. If you go to other platforms, they don't let you even embed Facebook pixels and all of that stuff. When Solda was born, I went with the idea of I have to share this data with our client, because if I don't, then they don't sell better. And a lot of startups might disagree because data is gold, right? But I think for us, it's in the sales game. If we can crack the sales game, we can sacrifice that, as a startup. So we share a lot of data with them. Actually, we share all of the data with them. Some of the things that we do also is like, for example, like we're the only platforms that it goes so crazy that I personally coded this, that once you run a campaign, somebody clicks on the ad, I can find out that sale of 5,000 baht came from somebody who clicked that button. And then I can even find out if he entered the event at what time and all of that stuff. So, and I share all of this data with Techsauce. And obviously when they have this kind of data, they're very happy, right? Now they can optimize. They can like think about the CEO and the CFO. When they start to think about business strategies and they have this kind of data, it actually makes a lot of sense. And I think this is the most important role that we have. It's actually to drive actions. So what does that mean is that it's one of my philosophy that if you have a good idea, it's not just about going to sell an idea, but how your strategy of going to the client and then making them take actions. So it's actually very challenging because we're not scalable. It's very difficult at this point. But the idea is we want to crack the problem first. But here's how we do it. We go to the client personally. We set up meetings and all of that stuff. We convince them. We show it to them how it works. And at some point, we even kind of build the tech first. And then we go to them and I say, do you want to do this? We can do it. And then about 20 minutes later, we send them a link and say, yeah, it's done. Just to show it to them that we are really we're really serious about this idea, and we want to drive it forward. So that's our game, basically. If they play the game with us, we can take it to a different level. All right, so now, obviously, all of this is, it's all about marketing, basically, marketing and sales. So what constitutes a good marketing strategy? This is actually very old school. And to be honest, if you remember, there's like 4 Ps or 5 Ps of marketing, right? I didn't realize last night I was actually researching on this. I didn't realize that what we were doing actually goes back to that traditional marketing, the things that we learned in college. Literally, I found this out from hustling. So Techsauce has the right product, right? But the combination with the right people, that means they have, what does this mean is that if they're targeting the wrong audience, that means you got the wrong people. No matter how you try to sell your tickets, you'll never be able to sell, right? At the same time, the right time. Right time means, think about it. If a ticket costs like 3,000 baht, 5,000 baht, and when you run an ad, and the person clicking on an ad has only like 10,000 baht in their bank account, they're not going to buy your ticket because they have to pay for their food first, And why does that happen? Because it's probably around the middle of the month where the salary is running out. So if we try to understand like the curve of the spending power and all of that stuff, like right time, obviously it's very simple. Like Lazada today will run a payday campaign on the 25th of every month. Shopee would do the same thing because they know that's when people have the most money in their pocket, and they will run that campaign, right? So, and knowing this also saves a lot on your marketing costs, because a lot of people think, yeah, run a lot of ads and then, oh, it doesn't work. But you don't know that actually there's a way of like playing around with time. Like people don't shop. I don't know the numbers exactly, but people don't shop at lunchtime. Now, I remember that Lazada had a number that says that people actually shop after 9 o'clock when they're on the bed and playing on their phone and all that. And then that's when they have the most attention Like there's nothing disturbing them. There's no boss in the office telling them to do this and that. There's nothing actually breaking the attention pattern. That means after 9 o'clock, they're very happy to actually go through this. Also, I think because the drama series that happen at night starts to end around that time and people will pick up their phone and start doing this, that's when the sales go up. So what would Lazada do is that they would spend a lot of marketing money during that time, or maybe a little before that time to basically boost sales. So timing is actually very important. And the right offer. The right offer would be like actually the price, basically. So think of it this way, that when you run a promotion in the beginning of the month, and when you run a promotion at the end of the month, targeting the same people, obviously you're more likely to convert more at the end of the month because there's more money, right? And also, is the product you're trying to sell, is it affordable? Because if you don't have the right offer, like somebody comes and sell me a 300,000 baht watch, I might not be interested now. I might be interested 2 years later when maybe I have a lot of disposable income. Or I might not buy, like a BMW car, maybe because it's not my liking or whatever it is. But the thing is, there's always the right moment, the right moment, the right pricing, and the right audience for actually every business strategy. Every marketing strategy. And think about it this way: it's not just those things. Sometimes you have to realize that even it's your product. So, for example, even for Techsauce, like there are complaints that people go to this Techsauce and then they don't get what they want. So it comes back to your product as well. So at the end of the event, we would discuss this, that people actually want more, or they expected more. So they're happy, but they wanted this. So you have to come back and see what your product is all about as well. And if you can get all this right, then obviously it's a perfect scenario. You close the sale for sure. So what's my sales hacking strategy? What I do is, so this is like, I call it hustling. I mean, this is how I would find out what I should do, how I should do it, and then just, drive actions based on those. What I do is, obviously, what happens with a sales? What would come to when does it come to a point where you have to do something? You start moving fingers, or you start thinking about boosting sales. It's only when you go to your bank account and you say, "Oh, there's no money coming in," right? So you have identified the problem. I'm not getting the money, right? But again, that's a very broad problem. So you're not getting enough money in your bank account. But then there's a lot of it deeper than that. So you're trying to promote a product and all that stuff, but then you don't know what's the exact problem. So I think the first thing you should do is find out the problem first. A lot of people just go in and see what the other guys are doing. Like, for example, I run an e-commerce site. I would go to Lazada and see what they're doing, and then I copy that idea. I don't think that's the right approach. I think the right approach is actually find out first what's the problem with your product, pricing, audience, and the offer that you have. Go deep, try to understand. I'll tell you how to actually find out that. But the idea is, if you can't identify the problem, there's no way you can hack sales, right? And then when you get the data from that, you analyze the data. Basically, this actually is reality check, because a lot of people, think, okay, maybe it's because of this, maybe because of that. But once you get the data, right, this is actually telling you that, whatever you thought of, 99% of the time is actually wrong. If your audience is talking to you and saying that you're not doing it right, you should have done it this way, you should listen to them, right? So that at that point of time, basically, you're analyzing the results that you have, and then you drive actions. You have to come up with a solution, basically. Like, for example, your tickets are too expensive. So what do? Give a discount. Very simple, right? I mean, I'm just saying, like, this is just a simple idea, but what I mean is that you come up with a solution and then you drive actions right away. So how do you dig into the problems? What you do is you have to identify the issues of low sales first. What you do is you ask these questions. Why don't people buy? Like, this is actually the philosophy of Sold Out. What we do is I trained all my staff to do this. Look at the numbers every day. If it doesn't hit 90%, call up the customer and ask them, why are you not buying the tickets? It's quite, well, it doesn't really sound like that if you were picking up that call, but I don't tell them to go and like, please call up the customer and ask them, why are you not buying? Why don't you buying today and all that? It's kind of like a very soft sell message that we try to use. But there are two things that we do over here. If you have a list already of leads, that means they're interested already. This is a very old school way. If you actually call them up, and this is Thailand, Thai people love one-on-one interaction. Thai people don't like clicking ads and then buying a product. They like if somebody chat with them, call them up or something like that. And what we do is we give them a call, and most times we close about 10 to 20% more sales already just because we gave them a call. And we're not even saying that, okay, all of that. We might say things like, okay, you have to buy within 6 o'clock today, or you have to make a payment before 6 o'clock today because the order will expire, and we cannot guarantee you that you're going to get the same price. That's one of the sales script that we use. But the thing is, why I ask my staff to call them up, if I go back about 3 to 4 years when I was running the e-commerce business, I wanted to scale my business. And the only way to scale the business was to actually find out what the problem was. How do I get to that number? First of all, I need to fix consumer problems, right? What I do is a team of about 5 to 6 people. I would actually write up a script, download the customer's data to about 50 or something per day, and then give everybody like 10 each and ask them to actually call and gather that data. The idea is not to close sales, but the idea is to find out what they're complaining about. A lot of people don't go to Facebook to complain. For me, it's a waste of time. If I have a problem with a company and I go to Facebook and complain, I don't want to go through that process. Sometimes I just tell my friend about it, have a beer, and then just forget about it. But in this case, when I try to drill down to when I have a conversation with them, the thing about people in Thailand in general, we're very friendly in that matter. If somebody calls up and then you talk in a very nice voice, they'll start telling you, you know what, I like your website, but there is this thing. And that's the moment of truth. That's what I'm looking for. There is this thing that I don't like. Your price is too expensive. I can't click that button. Imagine you never knew that, there was a problem there, but they said, yeah, I couldn't buy it. There was a problem. I couldn't click the button, things like that. And imagine when you call up around 50 people, and about 30 people say the same thing, right? As an entrepreneur, what do? Like as a boss, he's like, fix it now. It actually drives you to close that loop. It drives you to actually fix that problem faster. Now, the thing is, all of this that's driving actions, it's because you're actually asking them questions. A lot of people don't dare to call up customers, but we do it because I think it's the best way to actually find out what the problem is. Are we giving them what they want? Probably one of the questions one of the things that you could ask. I mean, you probably won't ask, but you probably realize after a conversation with them to know that, I have a ticket of 5,000 baht, and it's targeted towards startups who wants to, have a launch pad, find investors, but the person talking to me on the other line is saying that, yeah, I already got funding. I want to go abroad, but the product that we're trying to sell is not even targeted to them at all. That means we're talking to this wrong audience, right? And we're giving them the wrong product, basically. Either you change your product in that sense, or you change the audience, right? But you can only find out when you call them. And I think when you sell online, right, the thing about online selling is that somebody, like a robot, is trying to sell for you. You're not the person going to the client and saying that, I have this offer, I can give you a discount, blah, blah, blah. And when you do a direct sales, what happens is they ask a lot of questions. And they just ask, sometimes they just ask 80% important questions. The other 20%, they just want to ask questions. It's in the norm. But when you do it online, the question is, have you answered all those questions already? Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to close a loop, right? So if somebody wants to buy a product, for example, they want to buy a herbal soap, and it's green color, it's this, the website says it's all like natural and all of that stuff. But then there's this lingering question that I have an allergy. Will this cause any harm to me? It's not on the website. Now what happens is, coming back to us as online people, our attention span is very low. And that means if I saw an interesting product, but it could not answer all my questions, maybe I'll do it later. Maybe I'll find out about it later. I'm not going to call up the company. It's not my, not my normal daily routine or something. The only incentive, something that's going to drive me to call up the company to find out, is probably only because my friend, so socially somebody's telling me that, okay, you should use this product. Then I will be driven to find out, okay, if it's giving me allergy or not. But think about that. If you put that on the website, that means that question gets skipped. That question just totally gets skipped, right? So they didn't go to the next one. So the question is, like, have you answered all the questions already? When you do a cold call with your customer, right, you actually find out what the questions are. And it's so simple. Just get those questions and put it on the page, right? And then you already close the loop, right? Is there something visible or invisible that's stopping the sale? This is actually very important. You build a website and it's very tech. A lot of entrepreneurs might not understand tech, but it doesn't mean that they should not understand the user journey. I do this a lot. Today I still personally go in and test every event that we go on sale. Why? Even though we have a test environment and all that stuff, but I still go to the public page, put my credit card in, just so that I can pay and feel how my customer, is feeling. Why? Because, and even though it takes money out of my bank account or whatever it is, I can go and refund it later, but that's fine. I have to get into that mode that, it's a little painful, but I can do this because I want to find out if a person clicked an ad and then came to the site and then all of that, are they walking the same journey that I planned it 3 years ago? Because you have to think about it, like, okay, you built a really cool platform and all of that stuff. But 3 years later, there was a lot of changes. And there could be something that you put in the platform that you didn't even realize that it stopped customers from, it slowed them down or it stopped them altogether. Like stopping altogether would mean like a button is not clickable, right? Or slowing them down would be like, there was this condition that says, like things like, non-refundable in all cases. That's not a bad thing, but imagine if that cost sales. Like in Thailand, I think it's fine, but in the US, if you put that, or in Hong Kong or things like that, people actually find this very serious if you don't give them a refund. Like they say it's their right. We have one of the issues are like Techsauce tickets are non-refundable because we give a lot of discount. But there was one customer that said like, you know what, that's not fair and all blah, blah, blah. He bought the ticket anyway. So, and he came back to us and he said he wanted a refund. But the thing is, then we realized that this was a little of a kind of an obstruction. But you have to think about this. So in this case, it's a trade-off, right? Non-refundable is very good because you're selling it at very low tickets and you want to scale. So refunding tickets is actually a bad job. We actually have another strategy to actually circumvent that. I'll share with you later. But that idea actually kind of like took the sales like from like it probably grew the sales by 30-40%. So the thing is, as an owner of a platform or anything, I think you as a founder, you have to do this because you're the guy who's driving the vision. You're the guy who's trying to make a lot of guess about your customers. And if you're making a lot of guess about your customers and you don't know the fact what's going on your platform, there's no point of like trying to drive actions if you're not fixing the real problems. And I think this is the most important one. I don't know if you can see it or not. Do we really know what they want? I think that's the key question. Like, if you already know what your audience is and all that stuff, sometimes you have to ask yourself, like, do we know what they want? Because if we know what they want, then we can obviously answer the problems, right? So the key is basically to find out that. So what's the most effective way? So like I said, the best way is to ask them. Don't go Googling for it, like how to solve sales problems. Don't go like, how to run your ads better. Like, you're spending too much money and then you're not getting the conversion, how to raise conversion rates. To be honest, the way we raised conversion rates was actually going to the customer to ask them questions. That's how we raised our conversion rates. One, like when we started Sold Out, and even Dinosaur, right? My game was that we cannot beat Lazada. They are too big, and then we don't have $300 million to go and spend on marketing and things like that. We knew that the only game that we can play is a conversion rate game. That means our conversion rate must be higher than them, so we can double our sales. So and the way to fix that was basically understanding consumer behavior and then how we can give it back to them. All right, so what answers you can get from them is like the reason why they're not buying. Most of the time, like I shared with you, they're gonna tell you. Especially Thai people, they're very nice. Like they want to have that conversation with you, because if they actually like your product, they'll tell you the bad points as well. They'll like tell you, the event is good, but I wish you had this as well. And that's actually a very good feedback. Like corporate, every year after Techsauce, I would actually go and visit corporate or just call them up, and to find out like, okay, were you happy with the event? Because corporates drive a lot of ticket sales. And I hear a lot of things like they wanted to join workshops more. Workshop was like overbooked. They wish they could join like more technical workshops and things like that. And that's only because I called them up and they said, yeah, Dave, I actually like it a lot, but, I wish I could do this more, And that makes a lot of sense to me. If the product is right fit for them, do they really need it? So like I said, like you're selling to a startup who's already got funding. There's a pattern that, like people go to Techsauce as a launch pad, but when you've already established, you probably don't care as much to go to the event. You might just go and hang out with your VCs and all of that, but ideally they might not be the right target for your product anymore. So sometimes you find out, like you call up the same customer and they say, yeah, I'm not interested anymore. I've been there for 3 years already. So sometimes you have to find a new market, and you find out from asking them. And if it's the right time to sell to them, this is actually for events. This is actually very important. Events play a lot with timing. You run an event, like for example, you run an event in the middle of the month. Like here's a tip. If you run an event and you run it in the middle of the month, you lose a window of sale. What happens is there's that payday, right, after 25th. So if you run the event on the 15th, then you already lost a payday window. The idea is if you can run it after, it would be ideal. But again, I mean, events also, you can't control it that way. But I always look at it that way, because what happens is there's a behavior, a general behavior that about 50% of people will buy on the day before the event. Like they don't care if so much about the promotion or anything. They say, okay, maybe I go, maybe I don't, And I don't know, maybe a lot of people today actually just book the ticket, maybe yesterday, I don't know. But the thing is, when there's a pattern there, right? And there's timing. And what happens is your ticket's very expensive and you try to sell them during the month, have a conversation with them and they'll say it's too expensive. It's very natural. But if they have like surplus money in their pocket, they'll say, yeah, I'll buy it right away. It's basically that. And I'm saying that's in a very small scale of things, but there's also in the big scale of things. Like, for example, the event is clashing with other events. You try to sell Techsauce event when that weekend you're having like Coldplay playing live, 50,000 people going for that event. I've been in that situation before, you know. So sometimes you have to know like the timing as well. And obviously if they can afford it, again, like about pricing. If there's anything else stopping them from buying, this is a very broad question now. Imagine we ran an event, first time in Hong Kong. I don't have any idea about the Hong Kong consumer behavior, but I do cold calling to Hong Kong market, and then I find out like some people say, oh, the event is at the airport, and what happens in Hong Kong if you have to go to the airport to attend that event, it's a 45 minutes train ride to get there, and another 45 minutes back. They have to waste 1.5 hours on a single day just to go for that event. So those things I wouldn't imagine until I call them up and then they say, yeah, it's too far. And then eventually the event organizers issued passes. They can have a free ride and then they don't have to pay for it, So things like that also come up, and I'm talking about even in e-commerce, right? So you might have a product, but you packaged it in such a way that like it broke. Maybe it didn't break, but it didn't look nice when it got delivered to your to the customer's house. They might not have complained about it, or they might say, "Yeah, it's okay, I got the product." But then when you call them up and you realize that was a little bad experience that you created, and it could have stopped them from sharing that story with, like sharing the good stories with their friends about it. And when you find out those sensitive issues, right, and sometimes it can be big. Like I said, like the airport thing, it could be huge if you don't realize. And at the same time, even from conversation with clients, you start to understand that there might be another event happening as well. That's also another thing that event organizers sometimes don't know, like what's going on in the market. So that's another way to find out. So obviously call them. I mean, apart from calling this, you have to put yourself in their shoes. You probably heard this a lot, but then you have to put yourself in their eyes as well. I mean, kind of, what do you say, in their lenses? I don't know. The thing is, you have to see what they see, right? You're a founder, you might see, fix the problem, but you haven't seen it from the perspective of a customer engaging with your brand, engaging with your product, right? You have to walk through, like I said, you have to walk through that process. If you have a wine store, you have to walk through the store and find out what customers are doing. Sometimes you have to watch them and then try to walk through that experience to see, oh, really, I think I should have fixed this, I should have fixed that, or I didn't see this before, We try to omit this a lot because we feel like, yeah, it's creating a system, all done, check. But this is actually the second part of actually building a platform to live through that experience and find out what the issue is. Dig into the data, obviously. So I think very simple. So we don't run ads. But the thing is, when there's low sales, you can blame anybody, right? But then what we can do is also we can track the data, right? So we can track data, things like the first thing we look at is bounce rate. So if people come to our site and 90% of the people leave the buy page, that means something is wrong. Either the offer is not right, either the messaging is not right from the ads, or things like that. And at times, what we do also is that we are not going to go back to Techsauce and say that they change your ad strategy. They're probably doing it right, and changing on the spot is not a good idea. So what we would do is actually we would optimize our page. Like we launched a feature literally in just half a day. When I saw the bounce rate was running really high. If you booked a ticket through Techsauce around the last month, you'll see there's a pop-up at the end of corner of the screen saying that so let's say Dave from Thailand just booked 3 tickets, and then another one comes up, somebody from Hong Kong just booked 2 tickets, We did that because we wanted to make them stay on the page and at least just register. They don't have to pay it right away, but at least just register. And we created that just so that, they know that, okay, this event is actually quite popular, because today a lot of people just book the tickets. And we did things like, for example, we suggested Techsauce to offer a discount. Like if people were not interested on the spot, we were giving like 10% discount, and we changed the UI a little bit and things like that. That was just to get them to at least register first. I didn't expect them to pay, but what happens is when they register, right? Now I know this group of market don't want to buy right away, but now when they have their phone number, the email, I can reach out to them and find out why they're not buying right away. So the idea was basically to keep them on the page and get that data first. And watch out for tech issues. This is actually, it keeps me up at night every day, because if something goes wrong and then we don't know about it, you can actually lose a window of sale. The crazy thing was on the Techsauce day when we did the flash sale, I actually didn't go to the after party until like about 10 o'clock, because I wanted to make sure that this was running okay. Otherwise, you'll lose a lot of sale, basically. So you have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to really take this seriously. And there are also other ways to actually make sure that it doesn't fail at all. So you might have to get into the technical side a little bit, but there are ways that you can protect this from happening. And obviously look out for comments in social network. Generally, we don't do this because it's going a little further from our scope of work, but sometimes we do, because if a drama happens, so the drama, when it happens in Thailand, it hurts the business a lot. But you should look into your social network. That's where you watch out for comments. And then yeah, it's too expensive, I'm not free, or whatever it is. Generally, events, what they do is they tag their friends. Say, hey, you want to go? And then you read and then say, yeah, it's clashing with another event. That's how you find out as well, like, what's the problem with your event. Now that we know the problems, there was a lot of information on how to find out the problems. What do you do next then? This is very important. You might be overwhelmed with a lot of issues, and then most people, what they do is they try to solve all problems at once. Like they try to shoot one shot and kill 2 birds, but that doesn't really happen a lot in real life. If it's a problem about bounce rate, fix the bounce rate issue. If it's a problem about price, fix the price issue. But when you fix it, don't fix 2 problems on the same day. What happens with like me as a owner of this? If I were to fix 5 problems on the same day, my attention span is already gone. Like, how do I try to understand all this information in one day? It's not possible. A lot of people just get lost in the numbers. And they think, okay, maybe we do this, it's going to improve this, and then we're going to add this, and we're going to improve this. But then what happens is, at the end of the day, you didn't realize that you don't come to know that because I did A, I achieved B. You only know that I did A, B, C, D, E, and then I achieved like X or something like that. And then that's kind of like diluted information. Like imagine somebody tells you that you do A and then you get B. And that's a good strategy. You want to put it down on your notebook. Next time I try again. Tomorrow you try C, and then he gave me D. And then one day at a time, you introduce a new strategy. Then this way you also have your brain power to understand what's going on, right? Don't try to optimize all at once. Try to fix one problem at a time. You have the problem, you give the solution, and then watch what happens. And then do it again after a few days. And this is also quite important. This is what we do as well a lot. So why do I run my own tests on every event? Why do I want to put my credit card in? Why do I want to go through the process again? It's because I want to eliminate all the obstructions to buying. So sometimes I think of 10 ideas I've implemented already. But then when I go through that process again, I start to find out more obstructions to buying. Right? Things like, for example, the button is too low, or the button color is not right, or sometimes like the offer, the things like the countdown or whatever it is, or whatever you're trying to do that actually trying to push sales, and sometimes it's not visible, or sometimes it's not convincing enough. Then you find out there's a lot of obstruction that's happening, and then you keep fixing it. Yeah, sometimes you have to go back to your drawing board as well. You might have to rethink about your product. Does it need improving? Like I would like Techsauce. Techsauce is actually a good idea. Like when I mentioned that corporates have this question like, oh, I could have joined more workshops. I wish it was more technical. That means you have to come back to the drawing board and think about this, that, okay, I have a group of customers who's interested in actually a new idea. We might have to come back and change that. And if you do this early, that means when you launch your sale, you've already convinced them early on, right? You got their attention and they're like, oh yeah, you guys listen to us. We'll buy the tickets right away. Sometimes you revise the offering. Remember the right offer at the right time. This is actually very important. You have to come back, like literally just a few hours ago, one of the event organizers called me up and said, we have a super early bird running at right at this point. And they said, but I want to run a flash sale, like how you do it with Techsauce. And I said, sure. But the thing is, if you run a flash sale now, you already have an offer that's going to end next week. People are already expecting to come back at that point of time. You've already ruined your strategy if you run it this time. So think about this. The crazy thing was the owner of this event called up the customer and found out a lot of problem. And she said, yeah, maybe I should dump the price down a little bit. And I said, if you want to do that, move your super early bird away. Don't end it soon. Run your flash sale first. Because if this is the most important thing that the customers are looking for, change your strategy right away. You know, they bought the idea. Now what they're going to do is they're going to do a flash sale next week. And then they're going to move the end of the super early bird to like sometimes like 2 weeks later or something like that. But that makes sense from a consumer point of view. Because at this point you want to solve sales problem. You don't delay it. This is the relevant moment that you should do it. And sometimes you can try it offline first. If technology or a website or running a website can be like a bit of problematic if your programmer takes 5 days, 10 days, 15 days to implement an idea. Sometimes what you can do is you can actually do this offline first, like cold calling to sell tickets. I've done that before. We actually started doing direct sales now, and I like it because I'm having direct conversation with the client. I'm closing sales. And when I'm closing a sale, I realize what they want, and then I improvise it, and then I put it online. So sometimes if you want to implement an idea, I would suggest to actually do it offline first. Just do a run, kind of a dry run with your client and see if you can close a sale via phone or go and meet them or something like that. And learn from that experience, see what works, and then apply that. Apply the messaging online, apply the strategy online. And this is actually very important. Once you start to learn what the problem is, don't delay. Why? Because that information that you just gathered is actually gold. It's if a customer just said, I want this, but I didn't get it, and if you go back to them 2 weeks later and say, we fixed the problem already, most of the times they're like, yeah, I'm not interested anymore. Sometimes you really have to act really fast. If you can act instantly, you should do that. But if it takes time, if it's technology, it takes time to build it, you can go back to this. You might go back to the offline mode and actually start acting right away rather than wait for the website to get fixed, something like that. But the idea is don't lose that momentum. When you already got that momentum, you already know that the problem exists. You just had that conversation with your client. It's still hot. Don't let it die out. Fix the problem right away. So let's jump in a little bit. I want to share what we do with Techsauce. This is more like a story, actually. I'll draw up a story and I'll tell you how we actually keep going up and up and up. Starting from low conversion rate. This was back in 2018. We saw the numbers. I think we were hitting at about like only 80% conversion rate, which is already high. It's actually very high already. But I was not satisfied. I wanted to get more. And then we wanted to find out, so why are people, like, what happened to the rest of the 20%? Like, why are they not paying? So we found out that, there was a lot of people who haven't done it. So, that's what we did. So we did cold calling again. Kind of fixes all the problem. We did cold calling to find out what the problem is, but at the same time, we also tried to trigger a response. So at that point of time, the cold calling was not really to gather data, because we already do gathering of data, but it was actually to trigger a response. Meaning, we call them up and we say, if you don't, buy within this, if you don't make a payment within this period, you might lose an opportunity to get the ticket cheaper. And sometimes a reminder of that makes them come back and actually make a payment. And that's how we raised from 80% to 90%. That was one of the things that we did in 2018. Sorry.
Yes. Did you separate that into two things? Like you tried to call to find out what the problem was first, and then later you did the triggering, and you did it all rolled up in one?
I think what we did was, at that point of time, we were desperate to get the numbers up. The idea was to trigger a response, but I always tell my team that during that conversation, put a note in the system that what that conversation was. Like, for example, they said, yeah, I'll come back and pay later. I just need to call up my friend first, because I like the pay, like I like the three tickets per pack promotion or something like that. Put it in there, and then we come back and then we analyze. So it's kind of like trying to get the trigger to trigger the response, but collecting that data and then coming back and reviewing through that as well. Like we got a lot of things like that. We say like, we have to wait for my friend to respond or to confirm. But imagine when somebody calls up and saying, if you wait, the price is going to change tomorrow. So why don't you call your, not that we say it, but they know that, okay, I'll call my friends right away. Things like that.
And then did you also discover, though, any root cause for why, like, was there a dominant reason for, was it mostly waiting for friends, or?
Well, there's pricing. Actually, the most, number one out of all the results is that they don't pick up the calls. So like probably 30, 40% already. But after that, it's either they're not interested anymore, and then we try to clear out the system, or they are just waiting for somebody to make that decision for them. Like if it's a corporate client, they're just waiting for that signature. If it's people like startups, they want to buy a pack of 3 because they think the single ticket is more expensive. So it kind of like stops them from paying right away. They'll spend about 2 or 3 days and then gathering friends and all of that stuff and buying it, which is kind of good in a way. But and then that trigger would basically help close the sale. Yeah. Techsauce, I think it's around it, but each event is very unique. I have one issue today that says like, I don't understand what like your ticket packages. Like I have an event that you sell a ticket package, but the event happens on one Friday and the second day happens on another Friday. Like me, I've never sold like an event like that before. And I know that as a consumer, they'll be like, what? Like you buy a ticket to an event, but there's like separate tickets that you go on a separate week or something like that. Like I had that issue today. And we're trying to fix that as well. So that's also another, it's quite unique to each event. Yeah. But I think that the interesting thing is what we learn from this is that there are those response triggers that we tend to find out after a conversation, and then we apply that to the UI. Like sometimes when you see our UI, it's actually from a lot of talking to customers and then and applying those messaging to the UI. Yeah. So this is another interesting thing. I'm not showing any numbers, but just to give you an idea, this was something that I dug in the data in 2017 or something. We found out a pattern that's, when I looked at it, I'm like, this is crazy. So we try to boost sales throughout, every day. But then the problem is people only bought at certain period of time. This is actually very much about the timing factor that I mentioned. So what happens is this is actually launch campaign. So you'll have a peak. And then this is end of November, right? So it's end of the month. The money just came out. I just got paid my salary. So I buy tickets, right? And then again at the end of, December, I see another curve. Then again at the end of January. And then you have a little bit of Valentine's Day. And then again at the end of the month. So when I saw this, it's then the rest of the month I probably just go and chill somewhere, right? And wait till the end of the month and start doing my campaigns again. So this is what I found out, that's the behavior. And this matches our e-commerce business back then too. This was the behavior. We don't run ads on during the month as much as we run on the last 5 days of the month, which is crazy because other companies do that as well. That means you pay higher fees, right? So when we found this out, what we did was we looked into the sales data. We plotted on a graph like you saw, and then we saw those mountains. And we also found out that if there's no promotion, that means no sale. It was quite obvious. This was what we do. So we approached Techsauce and we said, let's do a total change of pricing strategy. In the last month of 2018 sales, we actually changed that pattern altogether. I don't know if you realize if somebody bought a ticket in the last month during Techsauce in 2018, you'd realize that we don't have the early bird promotions anymore. We just totally changed that, and then we took out the end of the month campaign and all that stuff. We started doing ticket count campaigns. So for example, if you want to get this price, I'm only giving it out for 50 tickets or 100 tickets or 300 tickets or something like that. And then you have to come and buy it now, otherwise you're running out. So people would be thinking yeah, I think maybe I should buy it now instead of waiting for the end of the month. And when you take out the time factor out and you put in the fear of missing out, so that's what ICOs do, right? You buy now, you get at this rate, but then it might run out tonight, it might run out tomorrow. People actually started to buy instantly. Now we're not doing, it does sound like this is kind of I wouldn't say this is a bad thing to do. It's kind of like driving actions. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to drive customers' actions to close a sale. They buy it today or they buy it at the end of the month, it's the same price. But if you can create momentum, it's actually much better. And when they buy a ticket, what happens is they share and they tell their friends about it. And they don't just tell their friends at the end of the month. They actually keep telling their friends throughout the month. And it means the word is spreading and people are just coming in to buy. One interesting thing also during the after party, when you do a flash sale, in the after party, people dude, have you got your tickets and blah, blah, blah. And then people just come in because they think if they wake up tomorrow morning with a hangover, they're not going to buy a ticket. Things like that happen. So we have, when we understand that consumers actually act that way, we just apply the strategy to match that, basically.
So, Dave, sorry. One more time. So that one, this is really interesting. So the typical thing that we saw in the past was like, if you buy it early, right, like early bird, you'll get the lower price, and then sort of the later it is, the higher the price gets.
Yep.
That was something that I think they did before. This one, is this different than what you did in this case?
Yeah. Let me go back and maybe show you. Oh, I can show you this. Sorry, this is on the website actually. All right. So you see this over here. This was what we did was you don't see any time at all. The time factor was removed, right? And then we started putting ticket counts instead, right? And look at this. The crazy thing was that these tiers used to be end of the month, like 31st of August, you buy tickets, and then then it jumps to the next tier. But what we did was we removed the time factor altogether when we implemented the ticket count strategy, right? And we had a lot of tiers this year. This was 2019. It was much more than the previous year. It was our idea to basically break down the pricing into a lot of tiers, because the more tiers you have, that means the more momentum that you have, right? And then imagine at the end of this, and people will come and buy. At the end of this, people come by. Instead of having everything dependent on months, you're depending on your, sales window now. Yeah. So people come in and buy like.
And was it kind of dynamic? Like you have some control over if you want to or not?
So we do plan it out to issue tickets, release a number of tickets based on what we want, and even sometimes we use timing as well. But again, we have to see the response, and then we kind of like change our strategies based on that. This is very real time actually. Sometimes we just change it on a daily basis, or sometimes we just like go over a period of a week or something like that. But the idea is, we have to watch what happens and then react fast. I know it's crazy. Yeah, and there are things like we started putting these things and to give them the idea why you should buy it now. We call it sales triggers. So whatever that's trigger response, we kind of try to put it up there, right? And the other thing is also you have to understand when you run a promotion, you don't tell them that if you don't buy now, later you have to pay this price. That's actually a very strong message. It doesn't have to be just events like products. Like if you're giving them a 50% discount, flash sale or something, tell them that if you don't buy now and you wait for another 6 hours, it's gonna go up. That's actually the key message. The key message is nothing else, it's that. So you have to really put that first, Yeah. And the thing about the the personalization that I shared with you earlier, this is something that we've done. What we do is we know that, for example, Joshua came to the event in 2018, and I know he's more likely to come in 2019. So why not approach him directly? Like, okay, we can't do cold call to 1,000, 2,000 people, but at least what we can do is we can personalize the campaign. So we would send out an SMS that says, hi Joshua, like we really wanted you to join the event this year, and here's a special discount for you. You get 30% on top discount for being a past attendee, and there's a countdown over here. So if you don't buy within like 24 hours or something, then you lose that benefit, So this is another like personalized campaign that we do as well. This works really well actually during on the event day because people get so excited and all that stuff. And when we do a personalized campaign, they actually, engage right away. Yeah.
Do you really enforce it? Like if he's not buying within 3 hours?
Yes.
You're tough.
Well, I mean, there's always ways to come back and, extend and things like that. But that actually is very important. Like, people will trust you and they'll buy tickets if they know you're being truthful as well. Like, for example, if you set the price as 50% and tomorrow when you come, you say like it's only 24 hours, and then you come back later and you say, yeah, it's still 50% off. And what do people think? They're like, yeah, it's just a marketing strategy, right? But think of it the other way. If they came back a day later, and they saw, oh, I just missed that price. The next time they see an ad from us, they'll not stop themselves from buying anymore. Because now they think it's all real, right? That's actually one of the things that I know that event organizers do this. Like, they try to play with this, but then they extend it because they didn't make a good sale. But for me, I think you should close the sale and tell them that if you don't do it, I just gave you a warning. Yeah, I gave you 50% discount. Next time, you can't miss it. If I give you 40%, you better buy it right away, And that's the message you want to send out as well. That's why, like, putting a sold-out thing on a regular event, let's say you do like a monthly event, and you put a sold-out on there. Like, there's an event, there's a tech event that only takes about 300 people, and I think you can book it on EventPop or something like that. Every time I go in, I don't get a ticket. And every time they announce it, the ticket just runs out in like 2 minutes or something like that. How do they do it? It's because people wanted to join that event, but they created that scarcity, right? And they created that like fear of missing out moment. This is quite natural because they really squeezed it in. Like, they're going to take only 300 people. But when you create that experience, or you create that impression, right? 1 month later, I would be the first one on the website and clicking refresh, waiting for them to like open sale. That's what happens with Thai Ticket Major when you try to buy a concert ticket and you know that if I don't buy fast, I'm going to lose that seat. So if you create that impression, then they'll come and buy like forever. Yeah. So
Yeah, Dave, so I feel guilty because I asked a bunch of questions, but we'll actually have to wrap up.
okay.
Maybe you could do the rest informally outside.
All right. Can I just run through it quickly? I think this is it's just basically, this was UX Thailand. They asked us to sell only 200 tickets. We sold 600 tickets. How do we crack that sales? Very simple. UX community in Thailand is huge. That was an opportunity. When they did a free event, 800 people responded on the Facebook event. That's crazy because they only could take 300 people. And when I said, if you're targeting only 200 people for our event, I know the ticket is expensive, but there's 800 people so engaged with your brand, you already have the customers with you. So I suggested them just to do, because I think we found out the problem was that they didn't know about the event. And the organizers also like a little skeptical about like hard selling the event during the meetup. So we introduced a flash sale, and that flash sale basically spread the message. It went like wildfire. We sold out workshop tickets in less than a day on that day. Right? So this is kind of like another case study to say that, you actually have the market with you, but you just haven't utilized it. And and then once you solve the problem, don't celebrate too soon because there's always more problems to fix. Don't think like, okay, you made one achievement. We're very relevant to times right now. Things are moving really fast. 2020 is going to be even more challenging for me to do like the Techsauce sales. But the most important thing is you have to keep doing this, and you have to A/B test everything. You have to keep doing this on a regular basis. You have to keep asking and keep adapting. Personalize the experience, create exclusivity, like I showed you already. If the more fan base that you have, the more personalized you should create your marketing campaigns. Because if fans already love you, don't try to give them a generic price or whatever it is. Give them an offer, give them a special message or something like that. Eliminate obstructions, keep doing this, right? And yeah, and then be adaptive. Always be ready to change the strategy in real time. Like I said, you know, stay on your toes, and then once a problem comes, like you want to punch it or something like that. Just stay alive, like for all of these things. And always be hungry for problems. They are actually endless, and be creative in solving them. And the most important thing is enjoy it. Because once you start to enjoy this, it's endless. Like I enjoy this for the last 2 years now, and I just like feel like, okay, I know what I have to do for the next step now. Yeah. This is just to give you a story, and to go through the details will take a while. So the thing is, we did flash sale in 2018 and during the last day of the event. What happened was a crazy story. I bumped into P. Mimi, who's the CEO of Techsauce, and I told, she was really happy. She was getting praises all around and all that. So I told her, if you're so happy, why don't we sell tickets for 2019? And she was like, are you crazy? Like, we don't even have a date, we don't have a venue and all that. I say, it doesn't matter. People are like crazy. They're raving right now about your event. Whatever you sell to them, they'll buy, right? We got together, like, you know, me and the other executives. 5 minutes, we decided, let's launch it. And literally, we launched the sale in half an hour. But the thing that we did was we changed a bit of a strategy. So what happens was the challenge is that who's going to buy a ticket 1 year in advance? That's crazy. You don't even know the date. There's no commitment to say that the event's going to happen or not. But then what we did was, because there's a fan base and we know that they want this, we changed the strategy a little bit by saying that instead of, you know, buying a ticket and not expecting whatever it is, the idea is you can actually transfer your tickets. So if you buy it 1 year in advance, and if you decide that you cannot go, we'll allow you to come and, you know, change it or give your ticket to somebody else. Or ideally, you can sell it as well, right? And the thing is, you're getting at what, like 1,500 baht. If you buy it before the event, it's 6,000 baht. So it's the right moment, the right product, the right offer, and the right audience, because your audience is in the hall. So when we launched it, we broke record sales. We never knew that, you know, like in like about 24 hours, we're going to sell that much. That was like the first time we broke 1 day record sales. And then about 7 months later, we launched another campaign. The crazy thing was we did it like AirAsia, so you have private sale and public sale. Why did we do this? Was because, like I said, nurture your fan base, right? When you run a private sale, you're telling your fans that I'm giving you exclusivity, right? So we launched a private sale, and the idea was, how do you bring that excitement back, right? When we launched a private sale, we broke all-time record sales again on a single day. The crazy thing was that that day we sold more tickets than the last day of sale, basically 1 day before the event. That's never happened on Sold Out before. And because of the fear of missing out and all those strategies that we try to implement, again, we broke the sales record and sold more than we've ever done. And then we did it again for 2020. So if you attended Techsauce this year, on that last day, we actually launched the flash sale again, and then we broke sales record, and we closed about 30% of the sales already. So yeah, that's about it. I guess the story is a lot about hustling and everything, and this is what Tony Robbins said. So if you really want to take the island, you have to burn your boats. So, yeah. Thank you.